Hello students, hope all of you are safe at home. In the earlier video we have learned about the thyroid gland under the captions like location followed by functions and then the disorders related with hypo and hypersecretion of thyroxine. Children, now in this video let us start with the next endocrine gland, that is pancreas. Pancreas, I think already you are familiar with the word pancreas with respect to the digestive system. Pancreas secretes the pancreatic juice which has a number of enzymes to take part in digestion of food. Now let us study about the pancreas. We find this pancreas, in fact, pancreas is a J-shaped gland found behind the stomach and in the upper abdominal region. So, what is the location of the pancreas? It is found behind the stomach in the upper abdominal region. This gland can be named as a heterocrine gland. So, pancreas is said to be a heterocrine gland because this gland acts as both exocrine gland and also endocrine gland. Hence, we name it as a heterocrine gland or an exoendocrine gland. Children, within the pancreas, we find the cells which are secreting the pancreatic juice which is poured into the duodenum. That is the first part of the small intestine. So we have the cells within the pancreas which secrete the pancreatic juice, and the pancreatic juice comprises the number of enzymes which are entering into the duodenum to act upon the food and to help in the digestion of carbohydrates, proteins along with fats. Hence, you can call it as a exocrine gland because it has a pancreatic duct. So, you can find the pancreatic duct through which the pancreatic juice produced in the pancreas enters into the duodenum. Hence, you can name it as a exocrine gland. Now, as an endocrine gland, within the pancreas, we find the group of cells. We find a cluster of cells, and this group of cells are named as islets of Langerhans. Children, the meaning of islets in the sense islands, that is a small group of cells Langerhans was a scientist who actually discovered these specialized cells which are found in the pancreas. So you can say that islets of Langerhans is actually the endocrine part of the pancreas. It is the endocrine part of the pancreas which actually secretes the hormones. So this islets of Langerhans comprises 3 different kinds of cells which can be named as a alpha cells followed by beta cells, and the third one is the delta cells. So these 3 specialized cells collectively known as islets of Langerhans, right? Such as alpha cells, beta cells followed by delta cells. These are the cells which actually secrete the hormones. The alpha cells secrete a hormone known as a glucagon. Whereas the beta cells secrete a hormone known as a insulin, followed by the delta cells which secrete a hormone known as a somatostatin. Children, as per the syllabus, we are supposed to learn about the insulin followed by glucagon, whereas somatostatin is out of the syllabus. So thus you can say that the islets of Langerhans comprises 3 different kinds of cells known as a alpha cells secreting glucagon, beta cells secreting insulin, and delta cells secreting somatostatin. So thus you can say that these are the 3 different kinds of hormones secreted by the islets of Langerhans. Hence, we call the pancreas as a endocrine gland. So thus you can say that pancreas is a heterocrine gland because it acts both as a exo and endocrine gland. As a exocrine gland, it has a pancreatic duct to pour out pancreatic juice into the duodenum to take part in digestion. As a endocrine gland, it has specialized cells known as a islets. Children, islets. S is a silent letter. It is islets of Langerhans, which is the endocrine part, which comprises alpha cells secreting glucagon, beta cells secreting insulin, and delta cells secreting somatostatin. Hence, it is an endocrine gland. Children, this can be expected for about 1 mark, especially for a give reasoning. So they can ask you a question, give reason, why do we name the pancreas as both exo and endocrine gland? Children, now let us study about the functions of these hormones which are secreted by the pancreas. So as per the syllabus, we are supposed to learn the functions of insulin. Fine? Yes. Now, insulin is secreted by the beta cells. Children, this can be expected for an objective type, right? So in order to remember so that you don't miss out the mark, I'll just give you a 3-letter word so that you can write that. B stands for beta, IN stands for insulin, so that you can't miss out. Okay, so this is a clue to say that beta cells of the islets of Langerhans secretes the insulin. Children, let us study about the functions of insulin. Now, what is the first function of insulin? Children, insulin, you can say that it actually lowers the blood sugar level. It lowers the blood sugar level in the bloodstream. Here, children, you can write it as it lowers the blood sugar level, or you can say it checks the blood sugar level in the bloodstream. You cannot write the word only sugar, you have to emphasize on blood sugar. In fact, blood sugar is referring to the glucose molecules which are found in our bloodstream. So you can also write, instead of writing blood sugar, you can also name it as it helps in lowering the glucose level in the bloodstream. If you just write the word sugar, you will be losing marks, because sugar can be the sucrose that we use every day. So you cannot name it as a sucrose or a sugar. So you have to emphasize that insulin helps in checking or lowering the blood sugar level in the bloodstream. So blood sugar is nothing but it is referring to the monosaccharide, that is a glucose, which is produced after complete digestion. Whereas sucrose is a disaccharide which is not used by the cells. Fine. So how does the insulin lower the blood sugar level? In fact, the insulin stimulates, the insulin promotes, or it stimulates all our cells of the body. It promotes all the cells of the body to utilize glucose. So thus, when the pancreas secretes the insulin directly into the bloodstream, so this insulin, which is carried to all the cells of the body through the bloodstream, now it stimulates all the cells of the body. It can be your nerve cells, the muscular cells, the epithelial cells. Every single cell of the body is stimulated by the insulin, so that the glucose is utilized by these cells, so that glucose undergoes oxidation, with the oxidation liberating energy in the form of ATP. That is, cellular respiration occurs in the cells. So what is the first function of insulin? Insulin promotes the cells of the body to utilize the glucose. So when the glucose found in the bloodstream is utilized by the cells, what happens? There is a lowering of glucose in the bloodstream. So this is one of the way where the insulin reduces the blood sugar level by promoting or stimulating the cells to use glucose. Along with that, in case if there is a sufficient amount of glucose, if there is an excess of glucose in our bloodstream, so in such condition, now the insulin stimulates. Children, you are familiar with the word stimulates. It is nothing but It is conducting the messages, or it acts as a chemical messenger to the liver. So insulin stimulates the liver. So it gives the information to the liver that the bloodstream has a sufficient amount of glucose. So it stimulates the liver now to convert the excess of glucose. It stimulates the liver to convert excess of glucose into glycogen. Okay, so when the excess of glucose is converted into glycogen, again the glucose level in the bloodstream is reduced. Okay, or sometimes it is also deposited in the muscles. Glucose is deposited in the form of glycogen even in the muscles, or it is converted into glycogen and stored in the liver. So children, most of the time, instead of using the word insulin stimulates the liver to convert excess of glucose into glycogen, we have seen the children writing insulin converts. They write the word as insulin converts. Children, this is a wrong sentence. This is a wrong sentence. You cannot use the word insulin converts. Insulin cannot convert. It only passes the information or conveys the message to the liver. Okay, so that now the liver, the cells in the liver, now they convert the excess of glucose into glycogen. Right, children? So when you learn the function, you have to be very clear. So how does the insulin reduce the sugar level in the bloodstream or blood sugar level in the blood? The first one is it stimulates the cells of the body to utilize glucose, followed by it also stimulates the liver to convert the excess of glucose into glycogen, thereby the blood sugar level or the glucose level in the bloodstream is brought down. Fine, children. Now, sometimes you would have seen, when you offer some people a lot of chocolates, or when they move into your, home, if you offer them the sugarless, if you offer them the tea or a coffee with sugar, they emphasize that they have to be given the sugarless tea or a sugarless coffee. So probably in that case, children, the person may be suffering from a disorder related with insulin. Children, now let us learn about the disorders which are related with insulin with respect to its hyposecretion followed by hypersecretion. Now, let us study about when the insulin is secreted in less quantity, or if there is an under secretion of insulin in a person's body. Now, if there is a less secretion of insulin in an individual, children, the person starts suffering from a disorder known as a diabetes mellitus. So what is a disorder? The disorder is known as a diabetes mellitus. So what is the cause for this diabetes mellitus? There is a hyposecretion of insulin. Because there is a less secretion of insulin, what happens? The person starts suffering from a disorder known as a diabetes mellitus. In fact, the meaning of mellitus is honey. Children, in this condition, what happens? You can say that here the person starts suffering from a disorder, that is, in his bloodstream, you will find the increase in the amount of glucose, right? Because the function of insulin is to lower the sugar level, right? Since there is a less secretion of insulin in his body, the glucose level in the bloodstream is increasing. So hyper means, hyper is referring to more, right? Gly is referring to the blood sugar, that is glucose. Emia is referring to the blood. So you can say that because of insufficient secretion of insulin, the glucose level in the bloodstream is increasing because it is not stimulating our body cells or our liver to utilize the glucose. So the other name for a diabetes mellitus is hyperglycemia. Because of the less secretion of insulin, there is an increase in the level of a increase in the level of a glucose in the bloodstream. What do we call it? As a hyperglycemia. It means there is a disturbance in the composition of blood. In that situation, this person has a lot of changes in his body. He has a lot of symptoms in his body. So what are the symptoms he has? The first symptom, already we know that there is a high levels of glucose in the bloodstream. Fine. Because of which the person now, he passes out the urine. And the urine is loaded with a lot of glucose. So it means the urine is filled with lot of glucose. Now the kidneys are in fact eliminating the lot of glucose because already there is a high level of glucose in the bloodstream. Now the kidneys will not reabsorb through the selective reabsorption. In fact, the kidneys are eliminating lot of glucose molecules along with the urine. So what is the second symptom? The urine is loaded with glucose, and along with that, this person has a frequent urination. So frequently he passes out the urine out of his body. Since there is a frequent urination, he is also losing a lot of water. So there is a severe loss of water from his body. Since there is a severe loss of water from his body, he is also starts experiencing the thirsty. So what is the third symptom? He has a frequent urination. Because of the frequent urination, he has a severe loss of water, and due to which he feels thirsty. Okay, children, along with that, since there is a severe loss of glucose along with the urine, now he starts losing his weight. Fine. So he becomes weak. He starts losing his weight. He becomes very thin. So there is a loss of weight. He loses his weight and he becomes weaker. Children, so along with that, in the severe conditions, in the extreme conditions, it may also lead to the blindness. It may also lead to the loss of vision. It may lead to the loss of eyesight, because a high amount of a glucose in the bloodstream may even affect the optic nerves, which may lead to the loss of vision, loss of eyesight, or he may become blind. So what are the symptoms of diabetes mellitus? That is hyperglycemia, that is the level of a glucose in the bloodstream increases. Fine. And then the second symptom is the urine is loaded with glucose. And then he has a frequent urination. Because of the frequent urination, there is a severe loss of water and he starts experiencing thirsty. And he has a he loses weight. Along with the loss of weight, he may experience the loss of vision in the extreme conditions. Children, in case if they ask you, explain diabetes mellitus. In such conditions, children, always you have to say diabetes mellitus is a condition occurring due to hyposecretion of insulin, and along with that, always you have to write 2 symptoms. You have to write 2 symptoms when you are explaining that particular disorder with respect to any disorder from this chapter. And especially you have to emphasize on urine is loaded with glucose followed by frequent urination where he experiences thirsty. Fine, children. Now, what is the remedial measure? How this disorder can be rectified? The only way is that he has to go for the regular walking exercise so that glucose found in the bloodstream can be utilized by the cells, which may reduce the level of glucose. But in the adverse conditions, the doctor will advise him to take insulin injections. So in the severe conditions, so the doctor will advise him that he has to take up the injections which contains the insulin. Right, children? So when this insulin is injected into his bloodstream, now the insulin which is artificially introduced will stimulate the body cells to make use of glucose, or to stimulate the liver to convert that excess of glucose into glycogen. Thereby it lowers the glucose level in the bloodstream so that he can survive for many more years. Children, insulin, why it has to be only injected? Right? Insulin, instead of injecting every day, why can't we give it orally? We can swallow it in the form of a tablet, right? Right? Instead of having a pain every day, that is in the form of injections. But if the insulin is taken orally, it may not have a same effect. It may not reduce the glucose level in the bloodstream. Children, this can be one of the question asked for the give reason. Why the insulin is given in the form of injections but not orally? Children, basically we have learnt in the first video that the hormones chemically, they can be steroids, they can be amines, they can be peptides. In fact, children, insulin is actually a protein. Chemically, it is a protein. Right? So, when this insulin, if taken orally, if taken into our oral cavity and then swallowed, so insulin being a protein, when it enters into our alimentary canal, when it enters into our digestive system, in the alimentary canal we have the enzymes, we find the enzymes, right, which act on the protein, and breaks those proteins into a simple forms, right? So when the proteins are broken down into a simple form, when it is absorbed by the villi, we know that inside the small intestine we have a number of villi. So with this simple form of a protein, when it is entering into the villi and then later on enters into our bloodstream, The insulin is no more the same chemical substance which may not reduce the glucose level. Right? Okay? So that is the reason we cannot take the insulin orally. It is because in the alimentary canal we find the enzymes which act upon the proteins. Okay? And those enzymes, when they act on the proteins are broken down. That is, the insulin will be broken down, which changes into a simple form, and it remains ineffective, which cannot lower the glucose level in the bloodstream. So it remains ineffective. Hence, the insulin has to be given in the form of injections, so that it directly enters into the bloodstream and then reduces the glucose level in the bloodstream. Children, when they ask you for a give reason, you have to write both the sentences. Fine? Okay? That is, insulin being a protein, it is broken down by the enzymes secreted in the alimentary canal. Hence, it remains ineffective in reducing the glucose level. Whereas, when injected directly into the bloodstream, it stimulates the body cells to make use of glucose, or stimulates the liver to convert glucose into glycogen. Fine, children? Now, so just now we have learnt about the diabetes mellitus, a disorder due to hyposecretion of insulin. What about the hypersecretion of insulin? In case if there is a oversecretion of insulin, we know that just now I taught you insulin stimulates the cells to utilize glucose. So because of the more secretion of insulin, the entire glucose in the bloodstream will be used by the cells, or it stimulates the liver to convert the entire glucose into glycogen, so that in the bloodstream we may find a less quantity of glucose. In that condition, a person starts experiencing the dizziness, right? Or he may enter to a stage known as a coma, where when the nerve cells are deprived, when the nerve cells do not receive the glucose, so in that condition, he may enter into a state known as a coma. Right, children? So this is the effect when there is a oversecretion of insulin, due to which a person may enter into a stage that is coma, where he may have a loss of his consciousness, because the nerve cells do not have a sufficient amount of glucose to take part in cellular respiration. Okay, so he enters to a state known as a coma. Now, probably, it happens in a diabetic patient. When a person is suffering from a diabetes mellitus, by chance, imagine he has taken the insulin injection in the morning. Okay, insulin injection you would have taken in the morning, right? And then because of that, we know that the role of insulin is to reduce the glucose level. By chance, he would have forgotten that he has taken the injection in the morning, again in the evening or in the afternoon. In the evening or in the afternoon, if he takes again the injection, that is the insulin injection for the second time. If he takes the injection for the second time, it means it leads to the overdosage. So you can say that there is an overdosage of insulin in his body. So there is a high level of insulin in his body, right? Okay, so due to which the entire glucose found in the bloodstream may be highly reduced. So in that condition, we call that condition as a insulin shock. So what do we call that condition as a insulin shock, which is nothing but when there is an overdosage of insulin to a diabetic patient, we call that condition as a insulin shock. Okay, so what can be done immediately if there is a reduced level of a glucose? He may start experiencing a dizziness, he may enter into the coma if you don't really take care of it immediately. So in that condition, immediately, though he is a diabetic patient, since he is suffering from an insulin shock, he has to be immediately given the chocolates. You can give him immediately the chocolates or the sweet biscuits, which will provide him the glucose in his bloodstream, which will increase the level of a glucose in its bloodstream so that he will not enter into the stage of a coma. Okay, children. So this is the insulin shock. So when there is an overdosage of insulin to a diabetic person, it may lead to this condition. Fine. Now, so with this, we complete with the insulin. So we have one more hormone which has to be learnt. That is glucagon. Children, in fact, the functions of glucagon are just opposite to that of the insulin. Just now I told you that the insulin lowers the sugar level. In fact, the glucagon has an opposite function. It raises the glucose level in the bloodstream. Okay, so what is the hormone that raises the glucose level in the bloodstream? It is glucagon. The hormone that reduces the glucose level is the insulin. Now, how does it increase the glucose level in the bloodstream, children? Now, in fact, now the glucagon stimulates. Now it stimulates. Now it has an opposite function to that of the insulin. Now it stimulates whom? Now it stimulates the liver to convert, come on, to convert the glycogen, the stored form of a glycogen, into glucose. So how does it raise the sugar level? It raises the sugar level because it stimulates the liver. Children, again, you cannot use the word it converts. Again, you will be losing marks. It does not convert. It again conveys the messages to the liver to convert the excess of glycogen into glucose so that the glucose is released into the bloodstream. Thereby the glucose level increases. So you can say that. So what is the role of a glucagon? The glucagon raises the glucose level in the bloodstream. How does it do? By stimulating the liver to convert the glycogen into glucose. Fine, children. So a simple function of the glucagon. Right? So with this, we complete the pancreas. Here, children, you can look at the flow chart, right? So here you can say that pancreas secretes insulin. So when pancreas secretes insulin, insulin stimulates our cells to utilize the glucose, thereby it lowers the sugar level. Again, insulin stimulates the liver to convert glucose into glycogen, again due to which there is a sugar level which is lowered. Right? Whereas when pancreas secretes the glucagon stimulates the liver to convert the glycogen into glucose, thereby it raises the sugar level. So thus you can say that one of the hormone reduces the glucose level in the bloodstream, whereas the other hormone raises the glucose level in the bloodstream. Okay children, in fact, let me just tell you about even the somatostatin. Though it is out of syllabus, at least try to learn what is the function of the somatostatin. Children, it is somato. Many a times I've seen children writing as a stomato because you will be learning this word in the plant physiology. That is a stomata. So it is not somatostatin, it is somatostatin. Fine children. So what is the function of the somatostatin? So this is a hormone, in fact, which inhibits the secretion of insulin. So if there is an over secretion of insulin, in that condition it stimulates the cells not to secrete the insulin. So it inhibits the secretion of insulin followed by glucagon. So what is the function of a somatostatin? It inhibits the secretion of insulin followed by glucagon by the beta cells and by the alpha cells. Okay, fine children. With this, we complete the pancreas. Let us quickly recall about the pancreas, children. So, pancreas is a heterocrine gland because it is acting both as a exo and endocrine gland. As a exocrine gland, it is secreting pancreatic juice through the pancreatic duct to help in digestion. As an endocrine gland, it has the islets of Langerhans to secrete the hormones such as alpha secreting glucagon, beta secreting insulin, and delta cell secreting the somatostatin. And it is situated behind the stomach in the upper abdominal region. And then what are the functions of insulin? Basically, the function of insulin is to lower the glucose level in the bloodstream. How? By stimulating the cells to utilize the glucose and to stimulating the liver to convert excess of glucose into glycogen. Right? Yes. If there is a less secretion of insulin, the person starts suffering from a disorder known as a diabetes mellitus, where he has all the symptoms such as hyperglycemia, which is referring to more glucose level in the bloodstream. Urine is loaded with glucose. There is a frequent urination, due to which there is a loss of water and he feels thirsty, and person becomes very weak. There is a loss of weight in his body, and it may also lead to the loss of vision. Okay, so insulin cannot be taken orally because insulin itself is a protein, gets broken down by the enzymes found in the alimentary canal. Hence, it has to be given in the form of injections. Fine children. So, if there is a hypersecretion of insulin, then the person may enter into a stage known as a coma. Right? And then, in case if there is an overdosage of insulin in a diabetic person, he starts suffering from a disorder known as a insulin shock. Children, we can also call this insulin shock as a hypoglycemia. What can we name it as? We can name it as a hypoglycemia. Hypo means less, because there is an oversecretion of insulin, due to which the glucose level in the bloodstream is highly reduced. So we can also call this insulin shock as a hypoglycemia. Right? So What is a remedial measure? When he is suffering from an insulin shock, immediately he has to be given the sweet chocolates or the biscuits which will increase the glucose level in his bloodstream. And the second hormone, that is a glucagon, secreted by the alpha cells, they raise the glucose level in the bloodstream. How do they raise? By stimulating the liver to convert the glycogen into glucose. So don't forget the word stimulating the liver, right? Yes. So it cannot convert the glycogen into glucose, only it stimulates the liver to convert the glycogen into glucose. So this is about the flow chart. Children, with this we complete the pancreas. Please, after watching video, go through the textbook, right? Okay, so that it becomes easy for you to learn. Okay children, thank you.